You just can't play that song right now. And are we? Aren't we? We are. We aren't. And we are. All right. We're back. I think. What the fuck is this? This shit is fucking confusing the fuck out of me. All right. We are live. Good. Let me just make sure that the volume is up. All right. Make sure that your volume is up. Indeed it is. All right. Fuck it. We're back. They can't stop us. We're like the fucking American basketball team. Unstoppable. Unstoppable.
Yeah, but had you nervous for a second?
No, never nervous. Didn't even sweat. Was never nervous for a second. You know why I wasn't nervous?
Purvis Ellison.
Purvis Ellison. I wasn't nervous because Bogdan Bogdanovic, pussy. That's why. Nikola Jokic, pussy. Nikola Jovic, pussy. Serbia, pussies. Fucking Novak Djokovic, he doesn't even play basketball. Tennis player, pussy-ass tennis player.
Yeah, no, that is true.
How about that? Fucking American heroes. LeBron, Steph, even fucking Joel Embiid, who just became an American hero 5 minutes ago. Couldn't get a fucking defensive rebound, but he got a couple clutch buckets, so I'll let him slide for right now. But the rest of them, Bogdan Bogdanovic, pussy. Pussy-ass nigga. USA! Anyway, here we are, live. That's enough basketball talk for today. Get into some football stuff, but I do want to present you with an Olympic scenario that I was thinking about.
Okay.
So here's the deal. Here's the question. Don't answer right away. Just think about it. Okay. Let's say, hypothetically, we can call it a government-funded program, or it could be a sponsored program from an American business. But let's just say you were offered the opportunity. The next 4 years leading up to the next Olympic Games, fully funded training, spared no expense, whatever you need to train for whatever event you plan on participating in. You get to choose the event. All costs are paid for. If you need to fly out to Denver to be running up in the mountains, if you need to go to Turkey to get, whatever they do in Turkey, if you got to bring your family, you could bring your family. Everything is paid for. You don't got to worry about anything for 4 years. But here's the catch. You have to come home with a gold. If you don't come home with a gold, prison for 4 years. And maximum security prison, not that Mike the Situation type of prison. The
not
real deal prison. Yeah. Now, first of all, do you accept the invitation to this program?
What's the upside then?
What do you mean, what's the upside? You get to have everything you want or need, or even fucking don't want and don't need, is paid for 4 years. If you decide you have a house, you need a house in the Beverly Hills, you get to keep the house. You get to keep everything that you get to, that is being paid for 4 years. And you get to be an Olympic gold medalist and whatever residual income or fame and fortune and stature that you get from that.
Okay, but afterwards, if I do have to go to jail for 4 years, do I get to keep this stuff?
Yes, you get to keep everything else. You
can
keep everything. But you do have to go to jail. Well, how about this? You can go to jail for 4 years and you don't keep everything. Or if you get to keep everything, you gotta do maybe 10. Let's say 10 years. So you got to think about, will you accept this invitation to this program that has been instituted? And then I think the even bigger decision is, the bigger question really is there a sport that you feel relatively confident that, given 4 years of prep. And here's the other thing: there's no cheating around. So like if you decide, yeah, I'm gonna play basketball, and you're gonna chill like on the bench, that doesn't work. If you're going to participate in a team sport, if you're going to be in basketball, you need to get significant minutes. You got to be you got to be on the court, or if you're going to be water polo, you got to be in the pool. You can't be, the reserve or whatever the fuck they got there. You got to participate in the sport, even if it's a team sport. I was thinking maybe basketball because my ridiculous irrational confidence. I feel less so now after watching how these niggas play today, but I was thinking like, yo, I feel like the U.S. could win a gold medal even with me getting like 20 minutes on the court.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like me, LeBron, Steph, KD, and whoever else you want to put
You
at the
wouldn't be
five.
that much of a detriment.
I could play D. I could play some D, and you know what I'm saying. I think with 4 years of training, I could play enough D to keep it close. I mean, again, I could have grabbed one of those fucking defensive rebounds that Embiid couldn't get today. But let me not even get started on that. But so basketball is that's one idea. Or if you thought maybe like, yo, if I fucking train to break dance for 4 years, I'm gonna bust everybody's ass next year. I'm gonna be out there fucking. You can fucking do the Africa Bambata, or if you think you could fucking do a what would be one of the other sports? I don't know if I don't know how confident you are in your shooting. You want to take 4 years and play fucking Call of Duty. Next thing you know, you're out here winning gold medals shooting. I don't know.
I think,
and just to put this out there, I'm not trying to be disrespectful to the Olympians. I know that they are elite at what they do, and they put all the time, and they deserve all the respect that they deserve. But I mean, there are some of these kind of fringe events where you could just see that every country, a lot of countries are just kind of taking a knee. Like basketball, like 3-on-3 basketball, the U.S. clearly is taking a knee. We're not putting our best representatives out there for 3-on-3 basketball. I don't even think they won a game. I think me, you, and take somebody else. I think if we would have fucking taken the next 4 years purely dedicated to we need to fucking win a game in 3-on-3 basketball in the Olympics, I think we could do it. With what these people are putting out there, like they like, yo, the 3-on-3 basketball players, like they clearly were just like out of nowhere type shit.
Yeah, I think off the top, I'm going through the events, and I think I have 3 or 4, which I think I'm set up to where maybe I could do it. And I'm going to start with shooting would be one of them.
Okay.
The only thing that the eyesight is going a little bit, that's not more of a thing about training. That's more of, eyesight. You know what I'm saying?
You can get LASIK. That's part of the training package.
True. Okay. Yeah. Probably get like a bionic eye or some shit like that.
I mean, if that's allowed by Olympic
the Chinese girl damn near had a bionic eye with all the fucking. She had like fucking.
Wasn't she Korean? I believe she was Korean. Oh, at least the one that I'm thinking about, the one that everybody was saying that she was like a Bond villain.
Oh. Yeah. No, well, yeah, I think so. Yeah, you're right. But I'm gonna go with that first. Then I think my body is set up for rowing. Rowing, yeah.
Maybe a coxswain.
Well, I mean, I didn't get that in depth. I'm just,
No, rowers are traditionally very tall.
Are they?
Yeah,
well, I'm just saying because I have good shoulders and back.
The famous Winkelvosses of Facebook fame. They're both fucking giants. Rowers tend to be pretty tall.
Okay. Well, all right. So then,
I remember when I first started working at the rowing club in Connecticut. Everyone was like, "Oh man, you should row, dude."
What's that? The joke from Fresh Prince? Oh, you roll crew? No, I roll with the crew.
That's a great joke. That's a great joke. Oh, but you know
uh,
what? Not rowing, but you know what I was what actually part of one of the events that fueled this thought process that I had in my head. Not rowing like the team rowing, but the single person. I don't know if it's kayaking, canoe. I think it's canoeing.
mm,
That shit. I think that would be one of the ones I think I could win gold if I spent the next 4 years. Because I'm watching these like, and again, I'm not trying to be disrespectful to them, but like I'm watching, and I also feel like a lot that particular event leaves a lot to
mm,
chance. Because depending on how shit goes, you get flipped over, or you miss one of the
mm,
fucking things. I don't know if you watched any of it, but you got to like spin around these
no.
things, and the shit look crazy. It should look like carnival type shit. And again, not trying to
Mm,
be disrespectful, but I think if you gave me 4 years, I think I could. I think I could hang with the canoeing.
mm. The other one that I think maybe handball.
Handball. I was thinking water polo.
I can't swim.
You got 4 years to learn. I just
Yeah,
felt because I
but
was watching
I'd
the
be
water polo, and I'm like, ah, half these motherfuckers look like they're not even doing shit. Like they just swim in. If you
yeah.
don't touch the ball, they throw it. Oh, you didn't get a goal. Okay, we gotta swim to the other side. They're just going back and
Mm,
forth. It's.
mm.
And but
Maybe
the
table
handball is
tennis.
like it's like soccer with your hands.
Yeah, it's a weird sport because it's like soccer and almost like basketball and football together. Because you have to have good hands, you have to have like shiftiness, and also you have to have moves.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm gonna go maybe weightlifting, just because my body is set up for success there. Maybe.
Yeah, I think we can revisit this next week. We can do a deeper dive into the events or what all the events are. Because the other thing I was thinking about, if we're talking about next year's Olympics, the next year's Olympics is going to be the debut of flag football, and I don't know
No,
what kind of flag football teams they're going to be putting out there. Like
the
I'm
one in
not
four
expecting
years.
the U.S. to flag football team to be Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, and Kelsey.
Yeah.
I know Joe Burrow was talking about that he wants to play, but Joe Burrow talks a lot of bullshit. I don't
Yeah.
know if
Yeah.
he knows
He
what the
just
fuck
he
he's
just the
talking
nigga
about.
just be saying shit.
I know, with his back out like a. Let me not even get started on
Yeah.
that. But anyway, just something to consider. I'm sure people will probably think that we're just complete assholes and that there's no chance we would get gold in any of these things. And that might be true, but I think it's a fun thought to have just to see what you can see. Because I'm thinking like there's got to be some niche sports that are in, because I just feel like there's so much Olympics shit.
Yeah.
We're like, we're like this close to having Olympic fucking red light, green light, 1, 2, 3 at this point.
That'd be the
Like I'm
Squid Games,
surprised we're not
pal.
even like, yeah, that's what I was thinking, like the Squid Games type shit. Like we're right there. It feels like, but anyway, enough with the foolish hypothetical Olympic talk. We have actual football happening tonight. I was actually thinking
I
about
got
going to the game tonight, but then I came to my senses and
I've
realized that
got
there's no
both
point.
games going on right now. I'm in mid-season. I'm in mid-season form.
Oh wow, look at you! You got multiple games going on at
Yeah.
once.
That
I was thinking about
that has
going
to be
to
the
the
saddest.
Giant Jet game though. I may try to do that.
I'd be forgetting that they actually like that they're gonna play.
How could you forget that?
No, it's just like
It's a
it just hasn't
tradition
been
like no
mentioned.
other.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you're right. That's bad on you. It
I mean,
just slipped my mind.
the only reason I'm thinking of it is because, I was looking at the tickets, because the tickets are so cheap, and I was thinking to myself like, I don't want to go to a football game during the regular season for the most part anyway. But
Uh-huh.
I'm like, I was looking at the tickets. It was like the tickets for tonight's game, they're like $5 on StubHub. It's like crazy.
Mhm.
So I was like, for $5-10, like just to go and fucking, taking a football game that doesn't mean anything. I'm like, now will be the time I want to go. Like when the weather's not bad, there's not crazy stakes. I'm not gonna have a ton of bets. I'm not gonna have a ton of fantasy football shit that I care about. I'm just gonna go just for the party and MetLife of it all. So when I was
Yeah,
looking at the
I
tickets for
mean
tonight, then
that
I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna go tonight, but
it
the
definitely
only
made
other
sense
game,
though.
the only other preseason game that's gonna be there is that game. So I was like, maybe I'll go to that game and fucking, depending. I think the tickets for that were a little bit more than for tonight, but still, I think I think it was like, I don't know, $20-30, like mad cheap.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of empty seats in them.
Yeah, I would
I
imagine
mean, I'm sure
so.
the
I
weather
mean,
doesn't help.
especially, yeah, especially the weather doesn't help. But I think the Thursday night aspect, if this was like if it was like a traditional Sunday, vibes preseason game, then you might be able to, because I feel like it's the perfect game to take like young children to.
Yes,
So I feel like if you're a dad, you want to take your kid. If you want to take your kid to a football game, but they're too young to really care about it the way that you do,
yeah,
too young to even guarantee that they're gonna want to stay for the whole thing. If you're gonna have a kid that's
exactly.
gonna be upset and they're gonna want to leave, midway through the
Hmm.
second quarter,
No, that's an
you
excellent
spend
point.
not that much money on it. It's a preseason game. You're like, all right, we fucking bounced. We tried it, and we but if you fucking spend $200 on a regular season game that you're deeply invested in, and the kid is halfway through the first quarter, like I want to bounce. You're like, yo, nah, nigga, you sit the fuck down and you watch this game.
That's a very good dad observation from from a person who does not have
From a
kids
non
currently. Yeah,
from a
that's a very good. You have me questioning whether I should, actually do that as well. So very good by you.
Well, I can't take full credit because I wish I could remember I was listening to a podcast that they were talking about the preseason ticket prices, and somebody was saying, "Oh, I would never go to a preseason game," and then the other guy was like, "Yeah, I was thinking I might go. It might be a good opportunity to take my kid." So that was when when he
Mhm.
mentioned that, I was like, "Oh shit, that's actually probably the ideal to take your kid to their first game or take your kid to a
Yeah.
game situation." So I can't take full
Mhm.
credit, but I did make a mental note when I was thinking about that because I was like, "Oh yeah, that's actually a pretty good idea." But
Well,
anyway, the
also,
only no, go ahead.
no, I do want to say that I feel like that may have been like, for example, like if you want to get your kids into football, I feel like that was kind of like the tipping point, like for my son specifically, when I took him to the game 2 years ago. Excuse me. Coincidentally enough, versus the
Bears,
Chicago
right?
Bears.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I remember that.
and I feel like since that point, even though like obviously he was watching the games, but since that point, his enthusiasm for football and for sports in general has you know gone off exponentially. But I mean, obviously, that could just be a factor of him just like the natural progression of how you care about sports and stuff. But I will say that that was kind of like the point where I saw that like it snowballed from there. Where like this nigga, he's like telling me, "Yo, did you see this?" I'm like, "No, where'd you see that?" You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
shift it into like actually caring about not only like rah rah for your own team, but also everything that's going on around football in general.
yeah, it's like a real, like an origin story for like a
Yeah,
superhero.
yeah. Have you seen? Speaking of that, not to go off that, some of the origin stories. Like I'm only asking you because of the one specifically for Garrett Wilson on the Jets channel on YouTube. He has a
I sent
they
you
have
that,
a.
did I not?
Did you? I don't know. I did
That
watch
little
it. I don't know.
documentary they did on him. I thought I sent you that because I seen when they
Uh
first posted. I thought I meant to send it to you. Maybe I
oh,
didn't.
okay. No, you could have sent it to like it's just too much that goes through. But I did see the whole thing,
Oh, you watched it? I haven't had a chance to watch it yet.
Yeah, yeah. That's more so what I meant about like the actual doc, like mini doc as well, or whatever you want to consider it as. But very cool. Just like you see how good of a person like that Garrett Wilson is, and also why like his father is like a person that you can see like he was raised the right way. So
Yeah.
it's just real cool. I don't know. It was just like
Yeah, I kind of was
just cool to
anticipating
see.
seeing that, which was why I wanted to watch it because I was like, you know how I feel about him, and I was like, this
Yeah.
is
Well,
probably
that's
going to
why.
offer some insight into, what gives him that kind of unique vibe about him at such a young age, especially.
Yeah, like a dog that also like respectful. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah. You know what I
like a
just realized? This jersey almost
competitive.
looks like a Dominican jersey. It
Yeah,
almost
you're
look
not
like a
wrong.
quick glance. It almost looks like a
Yeah,
Dominican flag.
yeah. If it wasn't for the W, like you,
It's a
you
wepa
look like a
jersey.
boxer. Yeah, wassa wassa.
Oh, speaking of
Fucking-
that, I think that parlay hit. I gotta check it, but I think that parlay hit.
Did it?
I think so. Because the only thing about it was that all those events they were all taking place on different days. So I saw that the first leg hit, but then I didn't see. I
Well, because the
wasn't
thing is, I was
monitoring the
confused
total.
because I was trying to find the event, but like for example, like I was watching Peacock or whatever, trying to find the Dominican girl racing, right, in the 100 meters, but I couldn't find that. But on your thing, it said Saturday, like on your screenshot.
Yeah.
But I was completely lost. I couldn't find when that event was taking place. And then the other day, I want to say yesterday afternoon, I saw her and she actually won the second of I guess the qualifier of the was it four? It might have been actually 400. Marlene, I forget what her name is. Marlene something or whatever. But it was either the four. If I'm not mistaken, it was the 400.
Yeah, I'm
But that
looking
was
at it
the
right
the
now.
second. It was the second of three qualifiers, but she came in first. So I don't know when the final of that is going to be.
Yeah, I don't know. This is Marileri Paulino,
Yeah,
400 meters. Um, but because I'm looking at the ticket. The ticket is still open. There's no result for that, but it says the date on it is August 2nd is when it's supposed to take place,
yeah.
and then the Puerto Rican girl in the hurdles. That's the date on that is August 7th at 4:10 a.m. and that has already passed too, and those are both no results. So I don't know if they happen and it just didn't register on DraftKings or if
No, the
they
one
haven't.
The August 2nd, no, because she's I don't know. It's confusing to keep track of because of some being semifinals, quarterfinals, qualifiers, and like you don't know when, like how much time off in between this stuff they have. So it's
Yeah,
confusing.
yeah. How have you found the NBC slash Peacock uh, Olympics coverage and whatever?
For the most part, I have been watching it on YouTube TV. I have gone to the Peacock, well, but on the Peacock they have all the events or whatever.
So
That's
when
where I
you
was
go to
trying to
YouTube
find
TV, you
the
just go to NBC.
no, I open up the YouTube TV.
Mm-hmm.
It pops up with like recommendations or whatever of what's going on. The good thing about YouTube TV now, since I guess they started last September because of the football, it has the split screen where you have four, you
Yeah,
can
yeah,
watch
yeah.
four events, four football games at the same time. So with that, it had the four separate events at the same time. Obviously, I can't control because I don't even know what's going on. So I go ahead and assume that those are like the most important events that are going on at that moment. So I've like seen little things here or there, and the actual coverage I like like the voices that you hear. There's nothing that like kind of sticks up. Like sometimes like even with football or like college football or something like that, you hear a voice that kind of like is jarring,
Yeah.
and it's not really something that you want to listen to. Well, even the radio, like sometimes like specifically in this time of the year where a lot of the regulars on the radio are out, where you hear a voice and you're like, ugh, I don't even want to listen to this voice. There's none of that. So I do like the NBC coverage of everything. The lighting is good. Like it's very consistent across the board. Like I do like how it looks. Obviously, like I'm not that into it, so like knowing what's going on, usually I just turn it on and see what's going on live at the moment. And I will say that for the most part, it like the coverage makes it watchable,
Yeah.
even if I don't
Yeah.
care about what's going on.
Yeah, I've been watching through Peacock, and I found it kind of like I felt like it took a minute for me to kind of get used to how I want to, because I feel like everybody has their own kind of way of watching, right? Like for me, since I have a lot of opportunity midday to watch the shit live. A lot of people
Mhm.
can't watch it live because of the time difference. A lot of people are catching those like those curated primetime 8 p.m. recaps. Um,
Yeah.
for me, I'm trying to watch as much of it live as I can, and it took me a while to kind of figure out, because like when I first went onto Peacock, it was like I was like, okay, they got so many different options. They got the regular kind of like midday NBC Sports channel feed. You can watch it through there. You
Yeah.
could do the Gold Zone. You can do individual events. But then I couldn't figure out which events were being, because like it would say replay, and I didn't know if it was live. And so at first I was getting kind of confused. But then I started to just go. Then I just started to pull up the schedule, like whether it was on my phone or online, and then just so I know, because like it was very hard for me to find a mapped out schedule while perusing the app. So I was like, I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
figure out the schedule on the side, or whether it's on my phone or on the computer or whatever, and then just based off of the schedule and what I want to watch, whether I have a chance to watch it live because I'm free at that time, or even if I can't see it live, I'll just go. I'll know when it happened, and I'll just go on Peacock and just go through the individual sports and just find the event like that. Because that was how I was watching a lot of the 3-on-3 basketball, because while everybody's been shitting on the 3-on-3 basketball and, oh, why do we need 3-on-3 basketball? I don't want to watch this. The 3-on-3 basketball to me has been fire. I have enjoyed as poorly as the U.S. has performed in the 3-on-3 basketball, and as kind of amateurish as it is, as somebody
Hmm.
who, like, if you never played basketball, never lived in a place where you went to the park and played ball outside in this like street ball, if the only basketball you
Hmm.
know is structured 5-on-5 hardcore basketball, that then there's nothing for you there in the 3-on-3. But as
Hmm.
I'm watching the 3-on-3, bro, I don't know if you've seen any of it. That shit is such park basketball. Not only because of the
Hmm.
way that they play, the only difference really is that they don't check. They just take the ball out the hoop and they bring it back, and the game keeps going.
Hmm.
Aside from that, it's basically 3-on-3 basketball with ones and twos. You shoot from the 3-pointer, that's 2 points. But
Hmm.
the illest shit about it for me is that it's a fucking party. It's, first of all, it's outside, it's outdoor. They're playing outdoors. They're playing with like a fucking outdoor rubber basketball. Like they're not playing with like
Hmm.
like the indoor type shit. And
Spalding
then on
joint.
top of that, during the game, there's a DJ, there's music playing, niggas is screaming. Like
Mm.
you almost like, speaking of what you were talking about in
It's
terms
like
of like
beach
the
volleyball.
broadcast. Yeah, it's very much like the beach volleyball to the regular volleyball. The 3-on-3 basketball is like that to the, and obviously when people watch the Summer Olympics, the beach volleyball, whether you played it or not, it has a novelty to it, so people like that. They're not, the 3-on-3 basketball does not have that same type of novelty appeal to it, because they're not playing in the sand. It doesn't give you that summer type vibe.
Mm.
But I love how it feels like like I've been to many fucking times where I've been out at the park and there's fucking music playing, there's people kind of casually watching, and there's 3-on-3 basketball going on, and like I have loved it, and I've especially loved hearing the DJ in the background like talking to the crowd in French. I'm like, yo, this shit is French. This shit is French Rucker Park. This shit is hard. Like I enjoyed it. Like, just watching, and it's mad physical. Like I was watching the 3-on-3 women's game, and they would like they be bodying each other. Like they already the women, like I've said for a while, like the WNBA, they already play mad physical, but in the 3-on-3 they were playing mad physical, and it's just like it's an outdoor vibe. Like they show people in the crowd, they're dancing, there's fucking mute, like there's dead ass like American hip hop music playing in the background throughout the game, like songs you recognize, and like so I don't know, like that whole kind of, it's very different than the 5-on-5, and if you're like, if that's what you're used to, then it's gonna be hard to kind of wrap your arms around it. But for me, like as somebody who is very familiar with watching a half court basketball game in the park, like it came very second nature to me to watch that type of basketball, and just the whole type of vibe that was about. I personally enjoyed it, but
that's dope.
But yeah, but I needed to use the Peacock to kind of, like I was going to basketball on Peacock, and I thought it would have been under that, but then I had to like scroll further down to find like they had it in a whole separate like
that's the other thing too.
Yeah, so I had to kind of figure out how I was going to navigate it, but once I did, it was easy to find.
Yeah, like going under athletics, you know what I'm saying? Like just put gymnastics, just put like what event they are, like more detail, like a description of the event as opposed to like subcategories. Like everybody's going specifically for what they want to watch. They don't want to have to, especially like with gymnastics and like floor, like all the floor exercise, and it, like there's too many events for it not to be like subcategorized. So it's like, oh, track and field. I'm like, okay, now I have to go to the track and field and fucking comb through 40 different events.
Yeah,
just put them shits.
It's been very.
Put them shits fucking. Put them shits alphabetically, and like if I'm looking for javelin, I can go to J. If I'm looking for, you know what I'm saying, like the what's the discus thrower, or you know what I'm saying, I can go to D. Like I don't want to have to go to fucking athletics, then go to there, then comb through everything that's going on. Like, and I know that like this is probably the first Olympics that's like fully like streamed.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess they gotta, they can't get it perfect on the first try. You know what I'm saying? So.
Yeah, so Olympics has been it's been something. It's been something to occupy the time.
Yeah, exactly.
But let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back. We'll do a little bit more football, and then I'll just remind everybody that Bogdan Bogdanovic is a fucking pussy.
Yeah.
All right, so we're back. I think. Are we back? Yeah, we're back. I didn't put the song though. That's the only problem. Well, it's never too late. It's never too late for NFL primetime. Where is NFL primetime here? We're without life, and I'm all fucking discombobulated here now. All right, here we go. All right. So, fantasy football time is almost upon us. I'm already starting to have some mild, not regrets, but rethinking of some of my previous two lists, the wide receiver and the running back list. But I'm not backing down off of any of my positions just yet. But there are a couple of players who I thought a little more about it, looked a little bit more into it, and I'm like, maybe I might have had them a little off. Maybe they're a little closer to properly rated than I think. But until further notice, I'll maintain my positions on those players. Yeah. Well, I wasn't down on. You were the one that was down on Malik Neighbors. I'm not down on Malik Neighbors. I was down on Marvin Harrison because I'm perfectly fine with Malik Neighbors. That's why he wasn't on the list, because to me, where he was being drafted, considering how much priority I feel like he's going to be on the offense, and what his kind of targets and opportunities are going to be, despite the problems that the Giants offense had, he's not being drafted until somewhere, I think it was in the 40s. I'm fine with that. Marvin Harrison made the list because you're going to have to draft him fucking in the first round or second round, and to me that's just way too high for a rookie. Yeah, but if we're overvalue is one thing, but if we're sticking to the ADP overall, there's always going to be the guy who's going to draft fucking, Dak Prescott #1 overall because he's a Cowboys fan, but we're not worried about those guys. I'm worried more just about the more broad, general where guys are and kind of where third round. As long as he's like late third round, fourth round, fifth round, I'm willing to have a conversation in any of those places. But for me, with the Marvin Harrison thing, I can't foresee a circumstance that's going to make me feel comfortable and confident having him be my wide receiver 1. I just can't. I can't do it. But with that being said, now we're down to quarterbacks and tight ends. I feel like they're the kind of the unsung heroes of the fantasy team sometimes. I don't know that there's really too much meat on the bone in terms of evaluating the tight ends and the quarterbacks, but I will present my general strategy and way of thinking when it comes to these things. Now, you, as someone who has participated in fantasy football leagues with me for many years, I'm sure are familiar with my very, very rarely, if at all, drafting a quarterback strategy. I many times don't draft a quarterback at all. I'll sometimes just, pick up one. Yeah, I'll stream. I'll pick up whoever I think is going to be good in week 1 and just, of the guys who are left over and roll that way. Or if there's somebody who I find extreme value on late in the draft, but I'm never taking a quarterback early. But Josh Allen is obviously ranked #1. Well, maybe it's not obvious, but it's obvious to me because I've been watching and I've been seeing where he kind of has fallen in the consensus fantasy quarterback rankings. I mean, I can't make an argument for him not being #1. I can only make an argument for me not drafting him where he's going to be likely drafted. There's just way too much turnover and way too much uncertainty when it comes to the Bills' offense in general. Maybe you could look at that and say he's the last of the fucking Mohicans and he's going to be the guy and he's going to be, dominating the ball and rushing the touchdowns in, throwing the touchdowns in. You could say that, and I can't argue with it, but I'm just not willing to take a chance because I just don't. For me, it's always like the guy who I feel like I can get way late Like at the end of the day, no matter how shitty you think no matter how shitty you think Gardner Minshew is, he's still a starting quarterback. You know what I'm saying? So like the floor of a lot of these starting quarterbacks is still pretty high. So for me, there's always value to be had. As far as quarterbacks who I'm interested in late in the draft, I know this is going to sound crazy, but one of them is Bryce Young. This isn't even really a list. It's not a list in terms of a numbered list. I'll give you 5 quarterbacks who I think are undervalued. Because Bryce Young, I say first, just because no one's drafting Bryce Young. No one. Like Bryce Young, unless you're in a 2-quarterback league or in like a 15, 20-team league, something crazy like that, or a super flex league where you can put a quarterback in the flex. Very unlikely unless you have a super duper Carolina Panthers fan in your league. No one's interested in drafting Bryce Young. His stock is as low as it could be. Like no one wants him. And I don't particularly want him. But when I see people, when I look at rankings and I see there are like several rookie quarterbacks who have never taken a snap in the NFL ranked above Bryce Young, while I might like the situation better, if you're telling me I'm going to have to draft Caleb Williams somewhere in the 10th round of a draft, not that the 10th round of a draft is the worst place, it's kind of, but I still feel like I'd rather take a flyer on a guy who I think could have super duper upside, or maybe even a running back handcuff for if I end up drafting a running back super high and I feel like I need the handcuff. I'd rather use that pick on that, something more secure, and I'll rather wait and roll with Bryce Young. I don't know what Caleb Williams is going to be. Now, at the end of the day, I would rather have Caleb Williams than Bryce Young. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying, I feel like the Bryce Young hate is at an all-time high, and it can't get any worse. Exactly. It can't get any worse. I feel like he's probably ranked, if not 32 out of 32 starting quarterbacks, he's, in the bottom 3. And I just feel like, listen, there are a few things to kind of hang your hat on if you're Bryce Young and if you're the Carolina Panthers. And that's, A, no matter what you think about him as a prospect compared to the rest of the prospects who are going to be rookie starting quarterbacks in the league this season, he has a full year of NFL quarterbacking under his belt. And that has to be worth something. It has to have some value to it as opposed to a guy who's never taken a snap in the NFL. Also, it's easy to forget, Bryce Young was a highly touted prospect for a long time. Like, it's not like, I think people started to kind of get, he didn't come out of nowhere, and people didn't fall in love with him over a pro day. It was like people were kind of following him with Alabama for a while. People were kind of having their eye on him as a prospect. He kind of started to fall as the draft approached. He didn't have the best of final years in college, but he's not somebody who just came out of nowhere and he's definitely a bust. Maybe he may be a bust. I'm not super high on him, but somebody liked him. It wasn't like he just came out of nowhere. Also, the other thing that I'm into a little bit when it comes to Bryce Young is I think he was in the worst coaching situation last year possible. I've always thought that Frank Reich is a total clown and a bum. I don't think that he was ever a quarterback whisperer as he was heralded to be, and I think that the team was just offensively just devoid of any real talent. I think they got more talent this year. Not a lot more talent, but a little bit more talent on the offensive side of the ball. And I think that this coach, man, like if you think about it, the last time we saw a number 1 overall pick quarterback, undersized, kind of trying to find his way, it was Baker Mayfield. And who rescued Baker Mayfield's career last year? It was the guy who's the head coach in Carolina now. Now, not to say that that's going to automatically translate, but the last two kind of lost at sea quarterbacks that this guy Canales worked with was Baker Mayfield, who he kind of turned around a little bit last year, got him paid. And who was before that? It was Geno Smith. Now, Geno Smith was not, I don't believe he was a first-round pick. He was early second round, right? Yeah, but he was another guy who never really found his way. He was kind of expected to be the future of somebody's franchise coming out of college. Didn't work out, but Canales was able to settle him down, make things easy for him, and, he got him paid. He got Baker Mayfield paid, and he has a track record of kind of fixing some of these problems that young or otherwise kind of confused quarterbacks have. So there is hope in Carolina. And again, not saying that I'm definitely going to be, I can't wait to draft him and have him on my team. I just feel like he's way undervalued at this point, and there's more bright side for him available than a lot of people want to acknowledge. So that's where I'm at with Bryce Young. The other guy who I'm interested in the late rounds is Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels, I feel like, is kind of like the forgotten rookie starter because he's going to a terrible team, a team that, I don't know that anybody even really knows what to make of with the Washington Commanders. But another similar to the way I feel with Bryce Young, coaching, man. Like, listen, you got to take a real good coaching situation to get my guy Cliff Kingsbury out of Vegas. And that's what they did, because Cliff Kingsbury was all set to be in Vegas for the next however many years. And then, that whole deal fell apart, and Washington opportunity opened up. And I'm sure that money was a huge factor in that. But I think that he looked at Jaden Daniels, someone who he has had experience with. And I think he looked at it as an opportunity to be successful. And I think the Washington defense is going to be bad. I think they're going to be behind in games. I think they're going to put it all on Jaden Daniels. And again, he's going to be a starting quarterback unless he loses the job, which I can't see that happening. I would be interested to see what kind of offense they run with him, if they make things easy for him and he's able to kind of make easy reads, make easy passes, work with his legs. He's going to get you some – you got to assume they didn't draft him to not have him run the ball. He's going to get you some yardage with his legs. So that interests me. I don't know that he's definitely going to be my quarterback, but if you're telling me I got to – take a third-round pick on Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes or one of these guys, or I can fucking pick up Jaden Daniels, and plug him as a matchup play. I personally rather do that. That's me. That's how I run my team. Not saying that everybody else got to do that the same way. I understand the value of having a top-flight quarterback, but for me, I'm interested in these guys that are super undervalued like that. Oh, yes. Sauce Gardner said he's going to be nice. So that is worth whatever you want it to be worth. I think Sauce Gardner is very, very smart and very calculated, and he doesn't get enough credit for how savvy he is with his public statements. I think he's very, very smart. I think he's just as smart as how I feel about Garrett Wilson, but I don't think people view him that way. I think he's way more serious than people realize. I think people kind of take the nickname, they take the grills, and they think that he's just a physical talent, and that's what has gotten him here. But I think he's far more cerebral and far more savvy than anybody has given him credit for. So I wasn't trying to diminish what you were saying. I do take stock in, but at the same time, he's so savvy that it makes me think like, maybe this is like there's some cleverness behind this. But Jaden Daniels, just given his dual threat ability, given the fact that I think they're going to be down in a lot of games, and I think that they're going to put it all on him, interested in him. The other guys, not really exciting, but I don't know why Matthew Stafford is continuously always so low when it comes to fantasy quarterbacks. He's always been that way, even back when he was with Detroit. I remember he was somebody who I would always target late in drafts because I always looked at it this way. There were years, several years, where Calvin Johnson was a staple of the first round in fantasy drafts, even the top 5, even top 3 picks sometimes, some years. And Matthew Stafford was always, to me, undervalued when it's like, I just don't understand how you don't make the correlation between a guy who's, like, obviously, it's not a direct translation, but there is correlation there. How bad of a value can Matthew Stafford be as a fantasy quarterback if his number one wide receiver is the number one wide receiver by a long margin? And I look at it the same way now. Matthew Stafford has just been cooking, consistently his whole career for the most part. He's still super undervalued. I think he's outside of the top 15 the last time I looked at the kind of consensus quarterback rankings. And I'm just like, why? How do you have Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp both? Puka Nacua is like a first round pick. He's like a top 10. He's a top 10 guy, and depending on where you view Cooper Kupp, he's still going to be top 15, top 20. You got two of those guys. They're going to be putting up numbers. They're going to be you have to assume they're going to be getting volume. Otherwise, they wouldn't be ranked that high. How is the guy throwing them the ball just completely devalued and useless? I don't get it. I mean, obviously, he's not giving you anything from a rushing standpoint, but there's a lot of guys that still don't give you anything from a rushing standpoint. Yeah, I mean, I just don't like. Look, if you're looking at Matt Stafford. Matthew Stafford is being drafted somewhere in the 150 range. You can get him outside of the draft, essentially. He's going undrafted in some drafts, so you can get him in the, 13th round, 14th round, 15th round. When you compare that to somebody like, I don't know, another quarterback you could look at, that Brock Purdy, 92nd? You want to take your 8th or 9th round pick in the fantasy draft and draft it on Brock Purdy when you can get Matthew Stafford off of waivers after the draft is over? Like, exactly. Considering that Brandon Ayuk, we don't know what's going on with him. Have they finalized that Steelers trade? People were announcing it like it was done, and it wasn't done. Say again. Yeah, I'm real down on the 49ers, man. I'm not liking any of what I'm seeing coming out of there. You had the Brandon Ayuk hold out, hold in. Then you got the Trent Williams hold out, hold in. You got Brock Purdy's in like a weird spot. McCaffrey, I think people have forgotten, and this was one of the big issues I had with the McCaffrey trade in the first place. Like, look, again, like I've been saying, that whole McCaffrey trade, paying him and prioritizing him. If you didn't give McCaffrey that, and like, listen, Giants fans could be mad that they didn't pay Saquon Barkley, but you pay McCaffrey, you lose Ayuk. That's how that goes. You know what I mean? And you pay McCaffrey, and you know that you have Brock Purdy on the horizon. That's why you're losing Brandon Ayuk. That's why Trent Williams wants to get paid. And I feel like there's some guys on that team that are just looking to get paid and cash out, and everything is not as kumbaya as it once was. But that's a whole nother story. But when it comes to guys like that, Brock Purdy's of the world that are being ranked way above Matt Stafford, I just feel like Matt Stafford he's solid. He's not going to lose you a fantasy week. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's not going to you're not going to rely on him for a 4 or 5 touchdown 400, 500-yard game. He's capable of it, but yeah, exactly. You have to worry about the injury factor with him, but as long as he's out there, he's good for a good 250 to 300, 1 or 2 touchdowns, 1 or 2 picks. And like that is set in stone, set it and forget it. And like for me, if the rest of my squad is legit, I could win with that. You know what I'm saying? He's not going to kill you. He's not going to be like Bryce Young last year that you fucking finished the week with a negative. Matthew Stafford's never going to do that. So he's up there for me in terms of my my late round value guys. The only other guys I would say that I think have late round value on them, similar to the way that I view the whole Stafford thing, his receivers are highly ranked. He is not. Tua Tagovailoa, say what you want about him. His receivers, again, ranked super high. He's not ranked as low as Matthew Stafford is, but Tua having Jaden Daniels, Brock Purdy, Kyler Murray, Jordan Love all ranked above him, I don't see why I would. Yeah, I don't see why I wouldn't want Tua in fantasy. I don't see why I wouldn't want Tua over Jordan Love. And Jordan Love is ranked significantly above Tua. And like Jordan Love, like, yeah, he's the hot new thing. Everybody's excited. He got paid, and you know he had a nice playoff run. But as far as fantasy stats, listen, as a guy who had Jordan Love on my team last year for a couple of weeks, like, yeah, he can put up numbers, but I mean, if we're expecting, yeah, exactly, he cannot put up numbers, and if we're expecting the things out of Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and that Dolphins offense that everybody seems to be expecting, I don't understand how we expect that they're going to be getting the ball. Who's throwing it to them? It's got to be Tua, right? I mean, I'm not in love with Tua, but if I can get him way, way late in my fantasy draft, I'll be totally fine starting him, rolling him out there. So, and then the fifth person I would say out of my late value guys, I think that Aaron Rodgers' upside is too high for him to be ranked as low as he is. I feel like Justin Herbert has a very low ceiling this season. Doesn't have any particularly big-time standout receivers that you can expect that he's going to definitely be getting the ball to. He has a brand new it's his third head coach, fourth head coach. I mean, the guy's had a million different head coaches, a million different offensive coordinators. Yeah, so, and this head coach is somebody who we notoriously expect wants to run the ball, is not prioritizing airing it out. So why exactly is Justin Herbert viewed so much higher than Aaron Rodgers? Like, as long as Aaron Rodgers stays healthy, that team is built to go as Aaron Rodgers goes. And say what you want about how you feel about what the Jets are going to do this season. As long as Aaron Rodgers stays healthy, he's going to put up numbers. And not only that, you know he wants to put up numbers because he's Mr. I want to prove everybody wrong. I want to come back from the injury. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if he's got MVP hopes in mind of trying to kind of cap things off after everything that happened last year. I just feel like, you know, we haven't seen him do it in a while, and maybe maybe it doesn't work out for him, but to have him ranked as low as he is, he's like the 20th ranked quarterback. It's like, I mean, he's ranked next to guys who we don't even know what they're gonna be. Like J.J. McCarthy, really? We don't even know if he's gonna start. We might be looking at Sam Darnold. How is J.J. McCarthy even remotely close to Aaron Rodgers in terms of fantasy rankings? Just because what? Just because he has Justin Jefferson? I don't know, man. Aaron Rodgers is the Jets as far as from an offensive standpoint. And I just feel like he's gonna be looking to put up numbers. He's gonna be looking to score touchdowns. So I would not be upset at all if I end up picking up Aaron Rodgers with the last or second to last round pick in my draft. I just don't see why he would be going so low. That's just crazy to me that there's so many guys above him. I don't think any of the. I mean, despite how I feel about Jaden Daniels potentially having upside, I still rather have Aaron Rodgers than Jaden Daniels, and Jaden Daniels is ranked significantly higher than Aaron Rodgers. I mean, there's so many guys here that are ranked way higher than Aaron Rodgers. Caleb Williams, Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence. What has Trevor Lawrence proven from a statistical standpoint? I've liked a lot of what I've seen from Trevor Lawrence from a leadership standpoint, from a kind of gamer standpoint. You know, he wants to be out there. He takes a lot of beatings. You know, I think he still has a lot of talent. But as far as putting up numbers from a fantasy standpoint, that Jaguars offense has not been humming. So I don't see why he should be ranked way higher than Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, I mean, even Kirk Cousins I wouldn't take above Aaron Rodgers, and he's ranked above him too. So yeah, I think the problem for Aaron Rodgers is that for whatever reason, I think people are assigning all of the Jets' offensive woes of the past 3 years. They're making it a much more of a collective thing than. I mean, I know you don't want to totally blame it on Zach Wilson, but there's talent there on the Jets. They're acting as though the Jets' offense has been terrible because the Jets' offensive players are terrible. And I think it was a combination of a lot of things, but I don't think it was because everybody is unskilled and trash. Oh, those reports have really tickled me. Yeah, if you can't beat out Bo Nix and Stidham, then you got problems. Like, I mean, that just goes to show you. And not only that, but Stidham they signed, right? He was a free agent. Was he not? Like, they didn't give up any assets besides money to get him. He was there that last year. That's right. I forgot about that. I'm thinking of him with his last year with this guy, McDaniels. So he's been there. The fucking Bo Nix is a rookie. They actually gave up. I mean, obviously, they didn't give up a lot to get Zach Wilson. But the idea that you had Sean Payton think enough remotely about this quarterback that he was willing to make a deal to get him. Exactly. And then he brought him in, which kind of, you know, now his reputation is a bit on the line if he's going to put him out there. And he has such little confidence in what he's seen in person that the kid can't even get first-team reps. Like, and that's who Aaron Rodgers is replacing. And Aaron Rodgers is replacing that with a guy who, despite all of those problems, he still has a receiver who was excelling over 1,000 yards. And, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. Aaron Rodgers too low for me. And then I'll just go over the. Bro, dead serious. 60% of Aaron Rodgers' peak Aaron Rodgers is better than 100% of Zach Wilson. Like, just from a knowing the game standpoint. Like, I just feel confident in his ability to move the ball downfield. He has playmakers. I don't get it. But, you know, I guess people are just not seeing it. But so then for the tight ends, I'll just quickly go over. I won't spend too much time on the tight ends because I think we all kind of understand where the tight ends stand. I personally, the only tight ends I think that I would maybe put prioritization on trying to get would perhaps be, I mean, I'm torn on Laporta because I look at Laporta and he could be better next year than he was last year. And last year he was pretty fucking good. So if you feel like he could be significantly better, then he might be worth a high pick. And we've already seen him do it. It's not some speculation thing. We've seen him just be a matchup nightmare, not only early in the season when nobody's seen him coming, But even late in the season, when people were on to the bullshit, they still couldn't really stop him when he got a little banged up, and I think that hurt some of his later game performances. But he still, to me, I feel like there's no more questions about Laporta. We know he's the real deal. It's just a matter of him staying healthy and, Jared Goff being able to get him the ball. I still feel like where he's being drafted is too high for me to take him, but if you look at him as he's going to be significantly better than last year, then I can't hate on people for wanting to draft him. What'd you say? So his current ADP is 25. 25, so you're probably going to have to take him beginning to middle of the third round, depending on how many teams in the league. I'm not taking him there, but if you look at it like, listen, I think he's going to be a hair better than last year. I want to set it and forget it tight end. I don't want to be fucking around and, playing with taking a chance. I can't hate on you if you want to take him there. I probably won't, but I think he was that good in his rookie year, and I think that offense is ripe for him in that spot. So I can't hate it. What I do hate is Travis Kelce being only 2 picks behind him. I hate to say it, but I have very little faith in, I don't have no faith in the Chiefs offense as a whole being able to produce. I just have no idea where it's going to come from. I don't know if it's going to be Travis Kelce heavy. I don't know if they're going to lean on the run game. I don't know if it's going to be, we're going to try to really spread the ball out to all these new speedy receivers, the Xavier Worthies and Malcolm fucking Hollywood Brown. I don't know what they plan on doing, but given that I don't know what they plan on doing, and given the fact that we've already seen Kelce kind of take a little bit of a step back, at least from a statistical standpoint, this is not, this is fantasy football, and the numbers just tell me that Kelce's on the way down. I think he still wants to win. I still think he still can be productive, but at that spot, I don't think that his arrow is pointing up. If I'm going to draft a tight end high, I'd rather take Laporta, or I maybe even would rather take Trey McBride than to take Kelce there. Yeah. Yeah. So for me, outside of those top guys, if you're not going to reach for Laporta, if you're not going to reach for Trey McBride, who I think he's going somewhere in the 30s. If you're not going to reach for one of those guys, me personally, I probably won't be drafting a tight end at all. I'll probably just deal with the scrap heap that's left over, because outside of like a handful of top guys, I don't know what to expect. I'm not, as much as tempting as it is, I'm not doing Kyle Pitts again. I'm not going to do it. I know that this is like the year, now finally Kirk Cousins, and he's had a year. No. I can't do Kyle Pitts again. Unless you're talking about he's going to fall to like the 15th round, maybe. But, he's still going in that 4th, 5th, 6th. I wouldn't take him anywhere near there. I don't want to deal with that. Kittle's way too inconsistent. I mean, despite, he can give you a 3-touchdown game. He can give you a 3-yard game. No, thank you. I can get that from somebody who I can pick up, off the scrap heap. So the guys who I'm looking, very, very bottom of the barrel, scrap heap guys who are probably not going to get drafted, and who knows, they're not. My strategy is going to be, I'm going to just monitor the waiver wire. Whichever tight end of the bottom of the scrap heap guys seem to be producing with the most relative consistency, that's probably going to be who I just roll with and just hope the rest of my team can carry me. So I'm going to take a chance. I'll probably take a peek at see what Troutman is doing out in Denver, because Denver has like we just described, has a shaky quarterback situation. I don't know that they have a quarterback on the roster that's going to be pushing the ball downfield to the receivers too much. I think that the most that Denver's going to get, and listen, Sean Payton's a guy who does like to get to the ball to the tight ends. So value there, probably not going to be getting drafted, but he's a guy that we know Sean Payton likes. So I'm intrigued. Yes, exactly. Yeah, he wants him to be his Drew Brees. Yeah, Sean Payton wants Bo Nix. He values the accuracy. He's not necessarily looking for a guy to throw bombs downfield. He values the accuracy, a guy who's going to run the offense and who's going to hit guys running through the middle of the field. And I think that that's going to be the tight ends and probably the slot guys. Exactly. Exactly. So I'm not saying Troutman's going to finish as a top 5 tight end statistically. I'm just saying that I think that Troutman has enough value where you're probably not even going to have to draft him. And if you plug Troutman in, he could be one of those guys that has enough decent games, has enough of a high enough floor of what his targets are going to consistently be and the plays he's going to be able to make. Maybe he gets you, if he gets you in the end zone, you celebrate. But he's not going to kill your team. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you draft, like Kyle Pitts, you draft him in the 4th round like I did fucking 2 years ago, he kills your fucking team. And I'm not doing it again. So, give me Troutman. I'll be interested in looking at Troutman. I'm also going to be interested at looking at Noah Fant from Seattle because new Seattle head coach. He is a guy who came from Baltimore, and Baltimore has been using tight ends for quite some time now. And Noah Fant showed a couple flashes even last year. Like, the Seattle offense was kind of like in a little bit of a no man's land last year. You didn't really know what to expect from any of them. But Noah Fant had a couple of good games, and again, not a guy that I think is going to win you the league. For me, when it comes to these bottom of the barrel tight ends, I want a guy who's going to be averaging maybe 4 or 5 targets, 4 or 5 catches. You can get me 40 to 50 yards on a consistent basis and maybe pop in a touchdown every couple of games. I'll be happy with that, because if I can get that kind of production without having to draft it, and I don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'd be rather that than to draft a guy who's just going to disappoint me. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of mouths to feed. And I also saw something about the that's a good point, because I actually saw something about I saw something recently about the OC. The OC now in Seattle is the guy who came from Washington. Washington, and they were comparing how he used Adunze and Polk in Washington to what roles Metcalf, Lockett, and Jigba are going to have. And there wasn't a lot going on with the tight end there, so that is definitely something to keep in mind. But again, we're scraping the bottom of the barrel here. The other guy who I'm lightly interested in, and this one probably will just come back to bite me, but I like a guy who is the clear-cut number one, because you kind of what has kind of gone unmentioned in a lot of these fantasy football talks is how we've kind of arrived at a place from a fantasy standpoint with the tight ends. It's almost become like running backs, where it's tight end by committee. There's a lot of situations where guys don't necessarily have a stranglehold on the number one tight end spot. Like, you obviously have the marquee guys, like we talked about, the Laportas, the Kelseys. These guys are the clear-cut number one receiving tight end on the team. But there's a lot of tight end situations where you got guys that could put, like, I would be interested in one of the tight ends, for instance, in Carolina, but they got a couple of guys there. Green Bay. Yeah, you got Tremble, and you still have Ian Thomas kicking around over there in Carolina. And then in Green Bay, I would be interested in Musgrove if he wasn't also going to be competing for snaps. So, with that being said, yeah, exactly. He also had injury problems last year, so I wanted to put him on the list, but I'm kind of like, if I can have him, and I don't know, that's another thing about Green Bay. That offense still, I feel like, has yet to establish itself to where where everybody's role is, because they had so many injuries last year with the receivers and the tight ends. Is that I still don't feel confident in who I know LaFleur wants to. I don't know why I want to call this nigga McFlurry. That's like the third time I did that shit. I still don't feel confident in knowing who LaFleur wants to prioritize getting the ball. Like, I still don't know who the number one receiver is. Like, you think it should be Christian Watson, but not anymore. Who knows? So with that being said, the one guy who I feel like has a pretty clearly defined receiver role in the offense is old ass Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz has still been out there doing it with a high floor, producing. I mean, he was producing until he got hurt with Carolina, with the Cardinals. He was producing over there in Arizona. But obviously they had Trey McBride, and they were like, nah, we don't need you no more. Get the fuck out of here. So he moved on and he went to Washington. And Washington, we've seen this guy, what's his name, likes to get the ball to the tight ends, Cliff Kingsbury. I think they brought him there for a reason, for veteran leadership, and maybe he's not going to be getting, 10 targets a game. He's not going to be putting up the Philadelphia numbers. But would I feel terrible if I'm starting Zach Ertz for a couple of weeks in tight end, if he has a decent matchup and, maybe the quarterback is struggling to push the ball downfield to start the season and he's looking to get some easy completions over the middle to the tight end? I wouldn't hate starting Zach Ertz there. Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't hate starting Zach Ertz there. I mean, unfortunately, the tight end situation is it's in a place where you could pie in the sky talk up any guy that you want. But at the end of the day, I don't want to invest in a guy that I'm just hanging hopes on. Like, I'd rather get a guy like Zach Ertz who I'm not going to have to draft or who I'm going to take way, way late. When people are going on their run for the tight ends and people are reaching in the, 6th round for, oh, man, I've got to have Tyler Conklin here. I think Tyler Conklin could have a good year, and I'm going to really enjoy placing bets on him. I know that for sure. But if I'm going to have to draft him with an even remotely valuable draft pick in a fantasy draft, am I confident enough in him producing on a consistent basis that he's going to be worth that mid-round pick? Nah, there's very few guys to me that have that kind of value in the tight end spot. I mean, even Tyler Conklin, I believe he's going to be on the field, but they still like to see Jeremy Ruckert out there. Like, they still feel like they got something in Ruckert. So, and again, with Rodgers, we had this debate before. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is Mr. Get My Tight Ends involved as much as maybe people think he is. I think there's a fair amount of mouths to feed there, too. I mean, Breece Hall's going to be toting the rock a whole bunch. Garrett Wilson's going to get his targets. Mike Williams is going to get his targets. So, whatever's left there, maybe Tyler Conklin has a couple of good games. But again, I just don't want to waste mid-round picks on these hopes and dreams. Like, most of these tight ends, they're just hopes and dreams. Exactly. Yeah, and for me, I feel like at the end of the day, it's just when the inevitable run on tight ends happens in the fantasy draft. It looks like this season, based off of the rankings and projections, it looks like somewhere in the early hundreds, like between the pick 100 and pick 125 is where they expect a lot of these tight ends to go. That's where you're going to be taking guys like T.J. Hawkinson, Dalton Schultz, Cole Kmet, Pat Freiermuth, Kincaid. I mean, Dallas Goedert, like all of these guys, to me they're all kind of the same. I don't really. Yeah, I mean they're all kind of Yeah. Yeah. Truth be told, I think the only person that I might be willing to go a little bit higher on with a reach would be maybe Kincaid, just because they don't. He's the only kind of consistent target left on the team, and they don't have a ton of Dawson Knox. Well, yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's like you have so many of these splits. I mean, Dawson Knox. It seemed like last year, after he got hurt, it seemed like he just kind of. I don't know how much longer he's going to be on the team. They drafted this. They invested a high draft pick in this guy Kincaid, and it seems like they want to get him involved. So it does seem like he's going to be. It's going to be more of, closer to like towards the end of the season, from a snap share standpoint. Even when Dawson Knox came back from the injury, he was still only getting like 20 to 25% of the snaps, and even less so of the routes run. So it does seem like they want to kind of have it be a bigger, have Dalton Kincaid having a bigger piece of the pie. But what does that mean? I mean, he didn't really jump off the screen to me in terms of a guy. Like, he was not. I think, did he have a touchdown last year? Maybe one. He had no red zone presence whatsoever, which is the kind of the opposite of what you're looking for from a tight end. You want a guy who basically, you're dart throwing fucking TDs with these tight ends once you get out of like the top 5. So it's very hard for me to invest in Kincaid. Ferguson? I like Ferguson a lot. The only thing for me with Ferguson is that CeeDee Lamb just fucking monopolizes so many of those targets. Ferguson, it depends on. They got Zeke Elliott back, and it's like, I think that Ferguson, I think he's very good, and I think he would probably be another one that I would be willing to kind of invest a mid-round pick on, depending on how my team is looking at how far he drops. There is value there. You're 100% right about that. But again, just like you said before, it's like he is just another one of these tight ends who I feel like, where's his ceiling? I'm a big, when it comes to like, once I get outside of my top 4 rounds in fantasy, I'm looking for high ceiling guys. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can get high floor guys late in the draft. Yes, I agree with you if the draft plans out that way. But if we're going just based off of ADP, currently Jake Ferguson's ADP, 84th overall. So you're looking at him somewhere 8th round, and I'm gonna give you a list of some of the guys at or around that pick who you could potentially have instead. Other positions, yes. You want to take Jake Ferguson, or you want to roll the dice and see what's going on with Nick Chubb, who is current ADP is 3 picks behind Jake Ferguson. You want Jake Ferguson, or you want to see what's going on with Tony Pollard, who has the Titans backfield all to himself, in a spot where running backs are pretty hard to. It's hard to find a running back who we don't know what to. That could be high ceiling, it could be low floor, but it could be high ceiling. I'd rather take my chances with a Tony Pollard, who, if he has any kind of value, he could be a fucking every week flex, and I could be getting him at that 8th round spot. Similar, like, there's a lot of kind of questionable running backs in that spot. You can get a Nick Chubb, you can get a Tony Pollard, you can get Jonathan Brooks, the rookie from Carolina. You want to see what they're going to do with him. You can get him after Jake Ferguson. Rashee Rice is going after Jake Ferguson, who obviously is going to be missing some time, but I think he has value. Yeah, 100%. So like that's the thing is like for me, if I can kind of solidify all of my spots and I don't really see anybody who has any kind of big time upside appeal, like yeah, I'll grab Jake Ferguson and I'll be very happy to have him once the rest of my lineup is filled out. But if I got an open flex, if I'm uncertain about who's going to be my flex and I can hold off on Jake Ferguson and I can draft a Rashee Rice and have him be my flex for the rest of the season after he comes off of injury or off of the suspension, or I could roll the dice with a Tony Pollard or a Brooks, or I can get Hollywood Brown, similar situation with the Rashee Rice thing. I don't know. I just feel that's always what it comes down to for me. Or you want Jaden Reed. Jaden Reed is there in that same spot too from the Packers. Again, we don't know who's going to be the number one. He could very well take a step forward off of what he did last year and become like the consensus number one touch guy between what he does getting, screen passes and running the ball. And, he does a lot there for, clearly the floor likes to use him and get the ball in his hands. So I just feel like there's a lot of guys in that spot that I'm just like, Jake Ferguson, like he'll solidify your tight end spot for sure. You could set it and forget it with him, but you still have a chance to get a guy who could maybe win you, those kind of breakout guys who can win you a league. I'd rather take a chance and roll the dice on them. Like, I don't even know that I wouldn't. I mean, just because it's the Raiders and because they're just fumbling everything over there, I would still want Jake Ferguson. But I don't even know 100% that. I had to think about if I want Jake Ferguson or Brock Bowers. Because we don't know what's going to happen with Devontae Adams. He might get traded, and then all of a sudden Brock Bowers could be getting 15 targets a game. Who knows? Like, there's no circumstance where Jake Ferguson's going to be getting 15 targets a game unless CeeDee Lamb gets hurt. Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, as much as I like Jake Ferguson, and he had a real solid year last year, and I think he probably will finish as a top 5 tight end, but I don't know, man. I would much rather take a chance on a guy who I can look at like a Tony Pollard who has a backfield to himself. That's fucking gold in fantasy football these days. To get a guy who has a backfield to himself in the 8th round, like, that's too tempting for me with the running back market what it is. If I can grab a guy, if there's a guy like that sitting there, I don't know that I'm gonna be taking Jake Ferguson over a chance with that. Even the Carolina guy, like, I don't expect big things out of Carolina's offense, but I expect him to be the guy. I think that they're done messing around with this guy. What's his name? Who came? Miles Sanders. I think he's done. And Chuba Hubbard. I think that they're going to be completely irrelevant. They drafted this guy. I think they're going to. I think he's going to. I think you can expect out of Jonathan Brooks similar to what they got out of Rashad White in Tampa Bay, which he flew very under the radar. But if you had him in fantasy last year, you got him with a super late pick, and he was a solid, consistent contributor. So. Yeah, for sure. I mean, depending on how things depending on how the rest of the preseason and what we hear coming out of Steelers camp, I don't know that I wouldn't want Jaylen Warren somewhere around there, because he's kind of in that mid 80s pick as well. Devin Singletary. I mean, these are just guys. He's just kind of like Motor, exactly. Like these guys who are just kind of like forgotten men. But you're talking about two guys who are who Devin Singletary, who I feel like almost certainly is gonna have a backfield to himself, and Jaylen Warren, depending on how my boy Arthur Smith feels about Najee as Derrick Henry 2.0. Yeah, I don't know. But maybe that happens. But even so, they're both getting drafted around the same spot anyway. So I feel like as fantasy drafts approach, I think we will hopefully get a better idea of who the guy's going to be or how they're going to, divvy up the touches in the Steelers' backfield. And I'm interested in those guys too. I feel like this is almost becoming like a hybrid version of the fucking running back value rankings. But just basically, ultimately, at the end of the day, it's just illustrating where I feel, how I feel about tight ends. I feel like unless you have a guy who is just going to be a totally dominant tight end, is going to be the high priority in the offense and high priority in an offense who is going to be humming, I just feel like the ceiling ends up being too low for a lot of these guys. That they're luxury pieces, and I'm just like, I'm much more likely to roll the dice with a guy who is gonna have a chance to contribute way late in the draft or outside of the draft, as opposed to wasting a pick on one where I can fucking take a swing for the fences with a guy like a Hollywood Brown or fucking Xavier Worthy or some shit like that. And then next week we'll do kickers and defenses. Nah, fuck that. I'm not doing kickers and defenses. I don't believe in that at all. Many weeks I don't even start a kicker because I'm considering making some league adjustments so we don't even play with kickers and defense, because it's just, who fucking cares, man? No, hell yeah. If you have, if you got, look, pure example. If you drafted Josh Allen, you didn't draft another quarterback. The week that he's on a bye, you want to drop somebody valuable to pick up a replacement quarterback, or are you just going to fucking roll the dice without a kicker that week? For me, I'll roll the dice without a kicker that week. I'm not going to drop somebody valuable if I don't have the roster space. But that's that. Next week, I think we should speaking of defense, I think next week we should lay down what the rules and the parameters are going to be for the defensive fantasy, the all defense fantasy league, because I'm excited for that. That is where I will really kind of put my focus on, who to draft from a defensive standpoint. But we got to figure out what point total and values all end up making sense to kind of, so we can have a good idea of what positions to prioritize and shit like that. Because defense is kind of tough, because I was looking at the average, for people who play IDP, it's a lot of linebackers because they just do so much of the volume tackling. So for the purposes of our defensive only fantasy league, I kind of feel like it makes more sense to tweak some of those point values to where it's not just all linebackers drafted first because they're just volume tacklers. I think we're going to have to figure out a way to balance it out between what sacks are worth, what tackles are worth, what tackles for loss are worth, And then outside of that, yeah, pass defense is a good one too, because outside of that, then once you start getting into the turnovers and shit, so much of that is so much of that is just toss-up that, yeah, it's going to be hard to kind of really value those. But I feel like as far as the volume stats, like tackles for loss, passes deflected, passes defended, I think we can come up with something to make it all evened out for an 11-man IDP squad, the first of its kind. If you say that you've been in a fucking 11-man defensive fantasy league, I don't believe you. Poppycock. And with that being said, that's going to conclude. I think that concludes the early fantasy football coverage. We'll probably do another little recap, once once the season's about to start. But those are all my early leans. Next week we'll do a Hard Knocks recap. We've had our first episode of the Chicago Bears Hard Knocks. I feel like this episode was just really laying the foundation. I think it'll probably get more interesting next episode. We still need Word Life so we can do a full proper. I don't think we ever did a full proper recap of the Giants one because he hadn't seen it. I mean, we did the recap even though he hadn't seen it, but I mean, we got to get his thoughts on the final few episodes, and you know where I love. I think what I might do is I think I'm gonna get a printout of Joe Shane's face and have like the Shane-o-meter and see how he feels about Joe Shane. Is he high on him? Is he low on him? We could kind of monitor the ever the ever changing, ever evolving Joe Shane feelings. That's amazing. You should be ashamed of yourself. That is great. Yeah, we got to do something like that because I feel like this is going to be an ongoing situation. I mean, from the draft to now to how he's dealing with the hard knocks, and to, I mean, even before the draft, he was very opinionated about Joe Shane before he really had even done anything. So, interested in how he feels about Joe Shane coming off. And now, as far as the Jets, we're not, and I assume, I could be wrong, but I'm assuming that this is how you prefer it. In terms of that, there's not a lot being talked about. I mean, obviously, there's always going to be the random Aaron Rodgers conversations. There's always going to be little things about the Jets, but for the most part, in the grand scheme, yeah, I feel like they haven't been there. They had the little hiccup with the Egypt trip thing and how that went down. But I feel like they're not. Yeah, yeah. And captioned it with what I did see that, and the first time I saw that, I was like, it wasn't clear to me that it wasn't real. Coleman. Yeah, I mean, like I said, when I saw it, and I saw that it would have been tweeted out with that caption, and I was like, nah. So I clicked the video to watch it. I'm like, oh nah, these niggas are just trying to be funny. But like, come on, man, how you gonna get caught out there like that? You gotta know better. But this is the world we live in, where people don't know better. They don't know better. They don't try to know better. But either way, I think it has been a relatively quiet off season and start to the training camp for the Jets, which I assumed would be your preference. So I mean, so I think that's good. I don't think that there's really too much meat on the Jets' bone to really get into. The only one thing that I think there's nothing to really talk about, but we haven't talked about it at all. I'm just curious where you are currently on the Hassan Reddick situation. Yeah. Yeah.
He's the type of dude that he probably wasn't gonna play in the like in the preseason anyway. So it's like that's another thing that I'm like, eh. And I have seen like train like he is training. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I know like pads and football shape is a little bit different, but to me it's like it's not like it's not like a weakness on the team, like which would make it a little bit more of like like a warning flag or like
Yeah. Yeah.
like
He's more of
you
a,
guys have
almost
to
like a
get this
luxury
done.
piece.
Yeah, yeah, he's a hood ornament. You know what I'm saying? So it's like
Yeah. So not
so it's like
concerned.
I'm nah, not that concerned at all.
All right. Well, I like it. Hopefully all stays quiet and the calm before the storm in the Jets camp. They don't have any no hard knocks to worry about. They will not be
No.
the national discussion from that standpoint. Or you can leave that up to the Bears.
Flying under the radar.
Yeah, that's the best way to do it. We'll see what happens. We'll
Mm-hmm.
see what comes out of. I mean, I don't think that anything is going to come out of the preseason game, but
Mm-hmm.
um, I'm still curious to see because there's enough time that things may change and maybe Rodgers ends up playing. Who knows? I don't think he will, but um, that is the only thing that has been kind of kicked around. So we shall see what happens, but. That's it. That's all we got. That's all we got in New York football. Jalen Brunson is a captain. There's not really much to say there. I don't know why that even became news. As soon as I realized that the last captain was who was it? Who was it that they said it was? Landry
Lance
Fields
Thomas?
or some shit? Oh, Lance Thomas. I
No,
don't know
not
why I said Landry Fields.
Landry Fields.
I'm sure he was a captain at some point too. Um,
Yeah, there was slim
but
pickings back then.
yeah, it's not exactly, he's not exactly Mark Messier, or it's not exactly a situation where it's like, they've only had 4 captains in the franchise history. It's like, I mean, it's good for him, good for them. I'm glad, but not exactly news breaking. So, and then the Mets and the Yankees are, chugging along. That's all we got, New York wise, right?
Keep on keeping on.
Keep on keeping on.
Head above water for the Mets. Head above water. They score 5 runs, 4 runs, 7 runs in an inning, and then they go 8, 9, 10, 12 innings without scoring a run whatsoever. But hey, they got 2 out of 3. They gotta keep churning out wins. They start a series against Seattle tomorrow. It has to be tomorrow, and get 1 or 2 out of 3, and you keep your head above water. Atlanta Braves faltering. That's all you can hope for. If not even
Yeah,
if not even for the Mets, the Braves falling on their faces would be good.
oh, that'd be
Something to
amazing.
root for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be amazing. Oh, and the one last thing I have to say, I have to shout out my guy. He has truly become my guy,
Oh.
Freddie Freeman. Freddie Freeman, Hall of Fame crier.
Really?
Well, we mean
Cry
you've
about no, crying over what? Like,
over anything. You've never seen him cry?
no, man.
Hold on,
Dodgers
hold
games
on.
are late.
No, 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 no. Do you not remember his first game back in Atlanta as a Dodger? That was not a late game, and that was
Oh,
everywhere. And my
yeah, yeah,
man
yeah, yeah,
was
yeah.
completely a wreck. The
Yeah.
worst
Yeah.
athlete cry I have ever seen
Yeah.
until, well, actually, no, not until, because he didn't, that one still takes the cake. But the reason why I say Hall of Fame crier was because you combine that with the first game he came back from his kid being in the hospital, which thank God for him and thank God for everybody. I'm glad to hear that his son, he was able to come back and play because his son improved enough that he didn't have to be by his bedside. But you heard about that, right?
I didn't. No, I did not hear
So
about that.
Freddie Freeman was not with the Dodgers for like a little over a week, I think it was, because his
Okay.
wife like called him out of nowhere and was like, "Yo, our son, I can't remember what exactly it was, but I can't remember he had a seizure, couldn't breathe or something, and like he was knocking on the door in the blink of an eye. Freddie had to rush to the hospital, and they were like bedside for a couple days. They didn't really talk much about it. Then he came out with a statement. He said that his son had like some rare condition and like that he wasn't able to walk. Like it was really fucked up, scary sounding stuff.
Really? How
But
old? How old?
his youngest son, oh man, like young, like I think he's like a toddler. I think he's young,
No,
not like
because when you first said, I thought in my head it almost sounded
like a
like
newborn.
newborn or something like that.
I
Yeah.
don't believe newborn. I should know exactly how old, but I feel because the thing is, I think it's the same kid who was responsible for the Bad Bunny. I believe that was how I took it.
Mm,
The same kid that like his young son who selects his walk up music every year and continuously picks
okay.
Bad Bunny songs.
Mm,
I think that's the same son who. Let me look real quick. Let me get this right. I think that's the same son who was sick, but okay, of course I can't find it on the ready, Freddie. But anyway, so he came back. He had his first game back. I think it was 2 days ago, 3 days ago. And when they announced him in the lineup in fucking Dodger Stadium, the crowd all stood up, standing ovation for like a sustained minute. And you know my man,
hmm.
the waterworks came out, weeping, quivering lip, all of that.
Oh.
He lost himself again.
I mean,
And
I'll let that one slide. The other one, not so much.
the other one was amazing. The other one
Well,
was
yeah, but I'm
incredible.
saying like the rationale for it.
Also amazing. Amazingly ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly. There you
3-year-old son.
go.
So
Okay.
I'm assuming this isn't the same son that picks the songs, because I feel like 3 years old.
No.
I don't know. You're picking. He picked the song last year too, so I don't know. 2 years old picking songs, but so
No.
his 3-year-old son. So yeah, closer to newborn than even I thought. Los Angeles Dodgers first baseman Freddie Freeman and his wife said Sunday that their 3-year-old son Maximus, what a name, 3-year-old son Maximus was home.
Maximus Freeman.
Maximus Freeman, yes, was home from the hospital after being treated for Guillain-Barré syndrome, a rare
Oh, I've heard about
neurological
that.
disorder. In a joint social media post, Freddie and Chelsea Freeman said Maximus returned home after an 8-day stay in a pediatric intensive care unit. Max still has a long road ahead of him to regain his strength and relearn how to walk, but we are so thankful to have our family back together. In a previous social media post, the couple said Maximus went into full body paralysis and was rushed to the hospital to reinforce his lungs. Maximus's health later improved. His breathing tube was removed, and he was taken off a ventilator on Wednesday. So it sounds like they went through some
Hmm.
fucking scary shit. I don't wish that on anybody, no matter what you feel about Freddie Freeman. But
Yeah.
I think that Bad Bunny should send them some merch or something.
Mm,
But yeah, so shout out to
yeah.
Freddie
Well.
Freeman. That's my guy. I fucks with Freddie Freeman just because he said what did he say? He said Titi Pregunta or whatever. That shit had me fucking. Yo, my man, Freddie Freeman. No, but what he said was that he said that his son picked that song, but I don't know because we googled the lyrics and man, it's some pretty bad stuff there. Yo, salute to Freddie Freeman, man. He could cry his eyes out all day. I don't care as long as he keeps listening to fucking Bad Bunny. But the other kind of funny thing was, so actually when he came out, they didn't play Bad Bunny. He has like a couple of different songs. One of them is Bad Bunny. Monaco. I think
Monaco.
that's the. I think that's the main song he comes out to. But the other song he comes out to is "Baila Conmigo." I forget who that's by, but it's like an instrumental. It doesn't even. You know what song I'm talking about, right? It's not. It doesn't have words. It's just like a dance song almost. But it was funny how they were playing that shit in the background as he's getting this standing ovation and he's weeping and this fucking Latin
Shit
dance
is
music
rocking.
playing in the background. Shit was mad funny, but I don't know, man. Like, obviously, I don't wish anything bad on Freddie Freeman, but any chance I get to see Freddie Freeman crying like that, that's a win for me because he be having me dying. He lets it go. But he doesn't look like he looks like he's fighting hard to keep it in.
Well, that's what makes it worse. The fighting, the fighting. It's almost like when how they say like if you fall down a mountain or if you get hit by a car, or you're falling down the stairs, you give up your resistance.
Yeah.
And that way, your bones don't take the hit because you're bracing yourself.
That's what.
If you try to hold back,
that's what Tom Brady was talking about. That's TB. That's the TB12 method.
Really? Well, yeah. Oh yeah. Well, yeah. Well,
that's the whole concept behind it. Like that's why he was saying that when they tackle Ben Roethlisberger, it's like tackling through a glass window, and they tackle Brady, it's like tackling water. Because that's the whole concept. That it's like you're letting yourself take the hit or whatever. I don't fucking know.
You're Bruce Lee, be water.
Yeah, exactly. But Freddie Freeman getting us weeping standing ovation to this. Niggas the man. Anyway, that's gonna do it. Freddie Freeman shout out, and last but not least, Bogdan